Earlier this week, when I put this trial into focus, I said that I would be following along if there was anything goofy that ended up developing, and here we are a couple of days later, something goofy ended up happening. No, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that David DePape tried to break into, well, I guess successfully broke into the Pelosi abode in San Francisco's Billionaire Row, wearing knee pads and an inflatable unicorn costume to try to kidnap Nancy Pelosi. Listen, man, that's not even the wildest part about this, because he name-dropped. For whatever reason, he took the stand. This isn't a self-defense case, okay, where you could articulate where you're coming from. The act in question was caught on body cam footage. Like, everybody knows what you did. You're not disputing that. You're just trying to say that you got radicalized on the internet. Now, you're trying to allege that you did this because, you know, all of the conspiracy theories that you ended up engaging in. I'm saying that there might be a conspiracy theory going on right now in regards to weaponizing this case even further. But let's get to the facts before we start to get to the theories. Paul Pelosi's hammer attacker planned to wear inflatable unicorn costume to break into home, according to his own testimony. How could you keep a straight face when this guy's this goofy, soy-looking former leftist, current leftist, political pawn? Don't know for sure, but when he unironically says, yeah, I was going to wear an inflatable unicorn costume to break into the Speaker of the House's home. Weird. Okay, David DePape planned to wear an inflatable unicorn costume and broke into Nancy Pelosi's home to speak to her about Russian involvement in the 2016 election. What? Oh my God. Like, bro, you could just go ahead and read John Radcliffe's released memo that Hillary Clinton was the one to bring Russia into this situation. She specifically framed it that way, but I guess he wanted to go and move his certain number of degrees away from that conversation. Like, what? Okay. He testified in a San Francisco federal court Tuesday. A tearful DePape said his plan was to get the former House Speaker and other famous targets to admit their corruption and eventually get President Joe Biden to pardon the group. What the Okay. Instead, DePape found Paul Pelosi at his home and bludgeoned the 83-year-old with a hammer since his wife was still in Washington, D.C. Yeah, just check her publicly available calendar, you weirdo. But again, he was too busy buying an inflatable unicorn costume. Okay. He was never my target, and I'm sorry that he got hurt. He was just in the way. We need to just stop all that, whatever. The 43-year-old, oh my God, said Paul Pelosi, I reacted because my plan was basically ruined. No, you look like it was all very cordial until the cops showed up, and then he started to get a little bit agitated, but that's all right. Adding, he wanted to ask Biden to pardon his targets so we can move forward as a country. What the Okay, well, this is obviously chopped up, quite a bit. And because this is a federal court case, for interesting reasons, we don't have a live video feed. All we have is transcripts and then, of course, the media's secondhand reporting. DePape said he would listen to political podcasts that supported right-wing conspiracies as he played video games 6 hours a day. Sorry, what? Okay, so this dude's in his late 30s playing video games for 6 hours a day. Like, he's already, obviously he's a verified loser, but if you have that much time on your hands, okay, maybe spending the rest of your life in jail might actually end up doing you some good, but okay. On one of those podcasts, he heard conservative commentator James Lindsay talk about Bay Area scholar Dr. Gail Rubin. Okay, these are two people that I am a little bit more familiar with, one of them as opposed to the other, but I've definitely heard of both of them. A leading academic in feminist theory and queer studies. But about James Lindsay, that's right here. Put a pin in his name for a second, because we'll be coming back to this, because like I said, I got some theories as to why this one right here is being weaponized and the evidence is being used to support his conspiracy theory defense. I don't like where this is going. Takeaway I got was she wants to turn our schools into pedophile molestation factories, he said of Rubin, who is referred to as Target 1 in federal court documents. Rubin also testified Tuesday. What do you have to do with any of this stuff? Like, you could play some of her offending comments. I don't know why she has to come down to court That's interesting, and said her writings were misconstrued to fit a narrative against the gay movement. No. She's a dyed-in-the-wall intersectional feminist, and she is one of the most prolific writers in that sphere. And while I wouldn't use that same hyperbolic language that DePape would, because I'm sane, he's not terribly far off when it comes to describing Gail Rubin's studies as being a touch radical on the alphabet mafia spectrum. When asked by DePape's defense attorney if she supported child abuse, Rubin replied, absolutely not. Oh my God, but she's very, very, very strong on the queer side of the aisle. So depending on the way that you want to use the term child abuse, some people would consider that term applicable if you're talking about transitioning unmarried children. So yeah, she's also a public defender, by the way, and this is also in liberal-ass San Francisco. Yeah, you're starting to see all the dots connect on this one. In his blog post that has since been taken down, DePape often wrote about QAnon and unfounded theories that former President Donald Trump was at war with a cabal of Satan-worshipping Democrat elites who run a global pedophile sex ring. I'm starting to see why this guy specifically is doing what he's doing. Prosecutors said DePape's other targets included Tom Hanks, Adam Schiff, California Governor Gavin Newsom, President Joe Biden's son Hunter, and billionaire George Soros. During his shocking testimony Monday, Paul Pelosi recounted that he was able to call 911 while DePape was preparing to tie him up. Yeah, if you need to make any last-second preparations, just give me a second. I gotta go get my rope, okay? It's still back there, in the head of the inflatable unicorn costume. The door opened, and a very large man came in with a hammer in one hand and some ties in the other, and he said, "Where's Nancy?" And I think that woke me up, Paul Pelosi testified. He added, "I recognized I was in serious danger." Pelosi managed to convince DePape to move from the bedroom to the first floor of the home with the hope that police were on their way. Well, yeah, of course, you make the 911 call, which we've heard before, and yeah, then it ends up going to DePape, sees the hammer and hit Paul with it. Body cam footage shows Pelosi sustained a fractured skull, serious wounds on his right arm and hand. Paul Pelosi has since made public appearances, but with his wife in January, he is making progress, but it will take more time. DePape faces life in prison if convicted on federal charges of attempted kidnapping of a federal official. Gypsy Taub, right, we've talked about her before. If you want to go back and watch some of the older videos that I did on this subject to fully flesh out his previous leftist inclinations, Gypsy Taub is a single mother that he was shacking up with for 15 years and has 2 children with him. Yeah, she tells a very different story of the person who is David DePape than somebody who would unironically state that one of his major influences was fucking Gamergate. What? We're in 2023. Shit happened in 2014, for Christ's sakes. On Tuesday, in a sometimes tearful testimony, Mr. DePape told the court that he used to have left-wing political beliefs before a political transformation that started when he was living in a garage without a toilet or shower, playing video games for hours at a time, 6 hours at a time, apparently, giving evidence for more than an hour. Evidence is a strong word, but okay, the rambling, incoherent stream of consciousness that you're likely to find from somebody who's got that much free time on their hands. That's a little bit more accurate. He said that in the course of looking up information about video games, he became interested in Gamergate. He fucking said it. An anti-feminist campaign that targeted prominent women in the gaming world and became a huge online trend starting in 2014. Nobody's talked about it. Post-2015, sans the media, sans journalists, games journalists specifically, even though Gamergate was about ethics and it's just motherfuckers wanting to play their fucking video games without being proselytized to. Sounds fucking familiar with what we're currently going through when it comes to major Hollywood productions. Yeah, it all started with video games. And yeah, it had nothing to do with targeting women. It just so happened that 3 of the most prominent figures in Gamergate, Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, Zoe Quinn, like a lot of people who were talking about this stuff at the time. You can go ahead and fill yourself out with all the information on that. There's a lot of it. A lot of people made their names off of that situation right there. But the people that kicked all of this stuff off, we're women. We're game developers. We're shilling their game, trying to get good reviews by weaponizing their box in order to get it. Like, it's a very messy situation that shone a light on a very corrupt situation, and one person that did it probably as good as anybody else, Sargon of Akkad, of course. Now Carl Benjamin running podcast of the Lotus Eaters. I like Carl. I caught up with his work post Gamergate stuff, but knew he was big about it at the time, you know, filling out my own information on him as well. And he's out there, like I said, put a pin in that James Lindsay name because it's going to become important later. Earlier yesterday, I'm recording this today, but anyways, yeah, this popped up, and I was wondering, like, what the hell is going on here? And then David DePape said that he was listening to the likes of Glenn Beck. They didn't fill that out right there. Jimmy Dore, you know, noted conservative, noted a right-wing podcaster, anyways, and James Lindsay. And then you take a look in his account, which I can verify right here, still at the time of recording, and then, as we'll see here in a second, caution, this account is a temporarily restricted, and he hadn't posted at all in the past, oh no, there we go, 12 hours since I last posted this, or pulled this up, but, oh, okay, he's filled this in a second. Okay, here's how my day went. This, times like 100, I would receive DMs, but could not reply to them, getting them asked why I was locked out, with me not being able to answer. But the fact that we're seeing something like this happen at the same time that we're seeing so many other social media platforms take radical actions against people on one side of the aisle. I said this when I set everything up in that previous video in this DePape situation. This guy is going to be used as an example as for what they can do to go ahead and silence opposition. I think with that testimony that David DePape surprisingly provided at his trial, yeah, that kind of strengthens my opinion when it comes to this stuff. Ratchet up, guys. 2024, it's going to be fucking wild. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.